Welcome to the Growth Over Grades podcast, where we talk about education ideas and topics that matter most to our Spaces EDU educator community. I'm your host, Melody McAllister, educator advocate for Spaces EDU. At the beginning of each episode, I like to feature an amazing member in our community. This week, I want to give a shout out to educator, author, and speaker Hedrick Nichols. Hedrick is one of a kind, supportive of her PLN, while also sharing so much about her lived and professional experiences, as often being the only Black student, friend, or coworker. She hosts a weekly series called Small Bites, where she offers realistic steps to help educators and leaders grow in inclusivity while also looking inwardly at our biases and how they affect our students in and out of the classroom. Thank you, Hedrick, for being part of our community. I'm going to add the Small Bite links to the show notes. Now, I am so excited to introduce today's Growth Over Grades guest, my friend and award-winning principal, Adam Mokelke. I've been wanting to have Adam as a guest for this past year, but that was when he was just part of my PLN. Now I have seen him in the role of principal to my 2 middle school children at Anchorage Stream Academy, and I'm currently working at his school. So he's my administrator. As a parent and educator, I am in awe of how he and his staff put best practices, oftentimes ideas I've only seen as theories, into practice. Anchorage Stream Academy wants students to grow and achieve. I've never experienced the level of teacher and student autonomy as I have at Stream. Anchorage Stream Academy is a school that educates through project-based learning, STEM, and outside experiential learning. I hope I said that right. They also use a standards-based grading scale. I'm learning so much as a teacher and parent at this school. Adam, it is such an incredible honor to have you on my podcast today. Before we get started, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background?
Oh boy. Okay. Hi, welcome. And thank you so much, Melody, for having me on. I am a big fan and I'm in awe of all the things you do in education and to promote education and network educators. And you're just an amazing force and an inspiration to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong Alaskan. I was raised in rural Alaska in a really remote, small communities. My family even lived at a time for a time at a gold mine year round.
Wow.
And my dad was a miner, and everyone else left during the winter, and our family stayed at the mine, and there's no roads in or out or anything. And we homeschooled in a little 1-room cabin with no running water and no electricity. My mom homeschooled us. My dad ran a trap line. Sorry to animal lovers. That's a very Alaskan thing. Sorry. Yeah, when I was, I don't know, maybe 9, I think 8 or 9, we moved to the big city of Takotna, Alaska, which is a village of 50 people with a 1-room schoolhouse. And then when I was maybe, I think, 11 or 12, we moved to the thriving metropolis of McGrath, which is a city of about 500 people in interior Alaska. So that's how I grew up. I grew up in the woods. I grew up outdoors. I grew up hunting and fishing and trapping. And, if you needed something, you fixed it or built it. And then, I educated in the state, spent my entire life in this state, dedicated my heart. This state is my heart. My children are Alaska Native. I spent 12 years of my career in rural Alaska, and if I was a single guy, I never would have left rural Alaska. I would have a little cabin on the New Halen River still, and that would be where I'd stay forever. But I wanted my children to experience what I never experienced, which is going to a big regular middle school and high school in the city and having all those opportunities. So when my son was going into 9th grade and my daughter was going into middle school, we moved to Palmer, Alaska for those opportunities. And I was the principal of an alternative school for at-risk youth there. And then I think it's 2017, I got the opportunity of a lifetime. I got offered the job of being the principal of a non-existent school. They were looking for somebody to make their dream a reality. The charter had been approved by the Anchorage School Board a couple years prior. and they were waiting on two things. They were waiting on a facility, a location in East Anchorage, because we're the only charter that's dedicated to a neighborhood. East Anchorage is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the nation. If you look, there was a story on NPR this summer about how Mountain View, which is an East Anchorage community, is the most diverse community in America, ethnically diverse community.
Wow.
And so we're at, and a lot of low income schools, Title I schools. And so our founders were dedicated to having a charter school, having an awesome, really powerful option for kids in East Anchorage. And so they were looking for the right facility to open in East Anchorage, and they were looking for somebody who could actually start a school and make that dream a reality. And they chose me. So that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that you started as a homeschooler and
Mm.
very, very rural, but you have a love of education and just
Yeah.
kudos to your parents, you know.
Yeah.
I know your mom probably was the main teacher, but
Mm.
your whole family must have learned
Yeah.
so much. That's incredible. Do you feel like being homeschooled helped you in your role today?
Oh, definitely. Definitely being homeschooled and growing up the way I did. What I always say, Stream Academy is the middle school. If you would have asked me to sit down and invent a school that was perfect for me when I was in middle school, I would have started Stream Academy. I probably wouldn't have. It would have been not quite as well baked as it is now, but it's how I was raised, and kind of my dream of what education should be for kids. And my mom homeschooled us and did an excellent job of that, and we read voraciously. I didn't have a TV until I was a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm not good at parties with the whole like pop culture references from the 80s, 70s, 80s,
Mm.
because I miss all of that. And so people will talk about like the Love Boat or something, and it goes right over my head. So, um, but we read voraciously. We listened to public radio, KSKO McGrath, uh,
Mhm.
AM radio, broadcasting all over interior Alaska. It was our lifeline to the real world. And, my education outdoors is just as important, right? Like I can split wood
Yeah.
and haul water and run a trap line and hunt and track. I can build a fire in 50 below. I've taught kids how to build fire with, very minimal things outdoors. And, those skills are important too, I think.
Yeah. That's so interesting. We might have to talk some more about that at a later time. Um, so you helped create Anchorage Stream Academy,
Yeah.
and it is different than most public schools. And I'm going to let you talk about
Mhm.
that. But and I want so you talked a little bit about its conception, but tell us how it's different than most public schools.
Oh, it's very different. So in Alaska, our charters are public charters. And so I'm kind of starting a little movement. I'm going to work on to really rebrand charter schools in Alaska as public charters. There are no private charters in Alaska. That's not how it works here. Charter schools have to be authorized by the local school district. And so our school board has to approve our charter. And then charter schools have to be authorized by the State Board of Ed. And charter schools fall under all statutory regulations that have, impact public education. Um, Charter schools are funded the same way that regular schools are funded. The only things that we can do differently, different than school district policy or practice, are things that you specifically stipulate in the charter. So what makes us different is, I always say we're three charters, right? This, like,
Mhm.
you were talking at the beginning about, theory into practice, and that's been such a huge challenge with Stream. We're three charters. I tell people, we're our primary sort of driver of our three pillars is project-based learning, right? That's a whole
Mhm.
charter. Like if you look around the country, there are some amazing schools doing project-based learning. PBL Works is a great resource for that. We also have the emphasis in our charter on STEM and
Mhm.
STEM across the curriculum, integrating STEM across the curriculum and making STEM a huge focus. That's a whole charter, right? It's a STEM school can and is a whole charter school. And then outdoor experiential education, that's a whole charter. And if I were ever to start another charter, I've thought a little bit about maybe a high school version of Stream, because there isn't one at some point. It would be much more focused on that piece, on the outdoor experiential ed. And not that that's more important, but so those are our three driving educational philosophies and focuses in our charter. And they really make our school, what it is, because those things drive everything we do. So when I'm asking
Mm.
questions are, should we do this or shouldn't we do this? It always comes back to, is it mission vision?
Yeah.
Right. And I ask
Mm.
myself and I ask my staff, and if necessary, I ask our board, is it mission vision? Does this fit project-based learning, a STEM, integrated STEM across the curriculum, and outdoor experiential education? And that drives our professional development 100%. RPD is in-house, and it's driven by our mission and vision, and by our charter. And so those are the things that make us unique. Everything we do has to connect to those three things. And that's sort of my litmus test, is to go back and say, does this connect? And it also is nice in terms of deciding, with adopting curriculum, with adopting district initiatives. Our default is to do what the school district's doing unless I make a case otherwise, right? So it's sort of an opt-out model. And so if the
Mm.
district adopts a new curriculum, I go through that and say, does this fit well with mission vision? Does this fit project-based learning? Can our teachers move these units around and reshape the scope and sequence to fit with larger projects? And those are kinds of questions.
I love that. And because I know that you are really living this out, and your school is living this out, your staff, the amazing teachers at Stream are all doing this. I can say, as a parent, as an educator, the emphasis really is on those three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And standardized testing is real, and Stream participates in it, but it's not the driving factor. So I appreciate that
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the mission driven, because as somebody in the school community, I can say that that really truly is what is happening.
Thank you.
And I've never seen that before, so that's why
Yeah.
it's always like, wow.
Yeah, I think my whole approach is like, if we do what we do well, if we do school well, let those things take care of themselves.
Yes.
It's not that they're not important.
Right.
There is value to, there was some value to NCLB in terms of, bringing more, that big scary buzzword, bringing more accountability
Right.
to schools across the country. There is some value to having some measures of school success, even though there you could shoot holes. We could spend a whole podcast shooting holes in it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not perfect. And no, I talk about this recently. I just talked about it, and it connects, this idea of like, we're preparing kids for high school. No, we're not. We're not
Right.
preparing kids for standardized tests, and we're not preparing kids for high school. And so if you believe strongly that middle school should do either of those things, then you probably don't want to talk to me or send your kid to my school, or try to come work for me. What I believe is, we do what we do really well. Those things will take care of themselves. And so I have parents say, like, how are you preparing kids for high school? Your small, unique charter school, like, they're going to have this awesome experience. But then when they go to the big high school in Anchorage with, 1,800 kids, how are they going to, figure that out? And my answer is, if we do our job well, they'll be fine. I
Right.
was homeschooled in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and then they dropped me into a high school in Sitka, and and then a college, and I was fine because I had the skills, the adaptability, and resilience, and I can read and
Mm-hmm.
figure things out, right? So
Right.
it's not about preparing kids for standardized tests or preparing kids for middle school, and high school shouldn't be about preparing kids for college, right? It's doing the best you can with kids and staff right here and now.
Right.
And so what we do matters. What we do is awesome. And if we do our jobs well, our kids will be fine. If they have to go take a standardized test, they'll be fine. If they have to go to a high school, and our kids come back from high school all the time, because we're in East Anchorage school. So about 60% of our kids go to the East Anchorage high schools. They drop by after school all the time. That's a sign right there that you're doing something right. If your kids are in high school and they're like popping in after school to say hi. And I ask them, like, how did we prepare you? How did you do? The answer I get from them all the time is, the first couple of days was really scary because there were so many people, and I had to figure out my locker combination and like get to my classes. And then, like, by day 3, I was fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we put a little too much emphasis and worry about, like, oh, we have to prepare them for this and that. No, we don't. We have to do an awesome job with kids right here and now, and make this awesome, like make education awesome, right? And they'll be
Yes.
fine. And they'll be
I love
fine.
that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't live in East Anchorage, but I would drive an hour to take my kids to Stream Academy. That's how amazing it is. So thank you. What are some of the unique challenges that Anchorage Stream Academy faces? And even you as a principal?
Wow, that's a great question. The biggest challenge, the biggest barrier for charter schools in Anchorage is transportation.
Mm.
because we don't have busing. And so parents have to drive their kids, or their kids have to be able to walk or bike, take the city bus. We have kids that actually take the city bus. We've worked really closely with the Muni on making sure that works for our kids. They ride the bus for free. We have a lot of walkers and bikers.
Mm-hmm.
Transportation's a barrier. And then, just believe it or not, like, for those of you outside of Alaska, I know we're small, and Anchorage is small, like 250,000 people or something. I don't know. I could be way off on that. Maybe it's more than that. But just getting the word out. So I talked to a parent, like, people don't know who we are still, and this is our 7th year. And like, when people find out who we are, they're like, oh, this is so awesome, right? And I just wish I could. I'm trying constantly to find out more ways to, raise awareness of Stream Academy. So I talked to a parent recently whose kid got in the lottery, and they were super excited. And I said, how did you find out about Stream? And their child goes to an elementary school that's so close, so you could almost throw a rock and hit it. Like, literally, they're like, as a crow flies, they're like a mile from our school, right? And their neighborhood kids, all elementaries in Anchorage are neighborhood schools, right? They're walking schools. And so they live in our neighborhood, and they went to a neighborhood elementary a mile from us, okay? And the mom said, I've never heard of Stream Academy, and you guys did a presentation at our school. And she came home all excited and was like, Mom, I want to go to Stream Academy. And so I had to look it up, and then, like, wow, this is really cool. And then she added, to add insult to injury, sort of, I say that lightheartedly. Then she added, and I drive by here every day and didn't know you were here. So that's my biggest challenge right now. We're working on, I actually just allocated money for some signage, a really big sign, because we lease Wayland Baptist University during the day, and they're a night school. They're in there at night. So it looks like it's Wayland Baptist when you drive by. So we have some signage going in this fall, big signs that you can see from the road that say Home of Anchorage Stream Academy. But, it's just amazing to me that after 7 years of success, 7 years of doing really cool stuff, and growing the program every year, a lot of our own people in our own city don't know we exist still. How do you overcome that?
Yeah. Do you hope that, I mean, and I think that, leasing from a small university probably is a challenge in itself. Do you hope that it grows? I like knowing that my kids are in small classes, but are you hoping that it grows into a bigger school?
Well, we'll never have bigger classes.
Okay.
I won't allow that to happen. So we would never sacrifice growth for having 30 kids in a classroom. 30 kids in a classroom is malpractice in education. Right. And it's not, I'm not blaming school districts, because they do the best they can. They take way too much flack, when really school districts don't determine how they're funded. Legislators determine how schools are funded. Governors determine how schools are funded. The federal government to some extent, although actually federal government funding is pretty minimal. It's usually, in Alaska, it's like 70% state funding. School districts are doing the best they can, and class sizes rise every year because costs rise and funding doesn't increase, right? So I'll never sacrifice class size for growth. We will always be about 20 kids per class. Our charter stipulates our enrollment of 300, and next year we're going to be at about 180, and we're about capped out on size at Wayland Baptist. I can't see going much more than 180 with our current facilities. So to answer the question, I know I have long answers to questions. To answer the question, I would love to eventually move into our own facility that had the capacity for 300 kids, so we could grow to that. But that's facilities. Transportation is the number one barrier and struggle for charter schools. Number two is facilities.
Right.
And I could do a whole, for the school finance and structural nerds out there, I could explain in depth how facilities and how that all works. And I won't get too into that. The school districts in Alaska can't own real property. The Muni owns, or the state owns, their buildings and their property technically. I can't purchase a school. We can't build our own school. There's a mechanism for that. And then there's a sort of a backdoor mechanism that we're working towards.
Wow. Like your the hats you have to wear are a lot. It's not just, I mean,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say just, but you're an admin, but you're also like you're budgeting all the time. You have to rule
Yeah.
the budget and yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so that in charter schools in Alaska receive their funding directly. Not it isn't done through filtered through, and our budgets aren't created by the school district. So I receive our allocation in November for the following year and build our budget with our board, and our board approves it. Our
wow.
charters board, and that's all of our per pupil funding. So I have to account for salaries, all the benefits, our lease
Right.
payments, and then every other aspect of our budget. The nice part about that is we get to really target where our money goes and really prioritize that, and
Goes
this.
back to the mission.
It is it mission vision. Yep. Every budgetary decision, is it mission vision? Is this what's good for our program and our kids?
Yeah. Speaking of that and your mission, and I'm trying to get my next question. What does success look like at Anchorage Stream Academy?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Success looks like we're doing mission vision things, right? That kids are outdoors every day, that you see project-based learning happening organically across the curriculum, across our program, that STEM is, our kids are all participating in STEM activities, and STEM's integrated into everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
But really, on a bigger picture, for me, it's really simple. Do kids love school?
Yeah.
That's success. Do our two things. Well, three. Okay, three things. And they're all the same thing for same thing for three different groups of people, right? Do our kids love school as much
Mm-hmm.
as a middle schooler can love school, right?
Right.
Do our kids love this place? Do they say this is the best? Do our staff love working here? Do they love coming to work? Are they happy? Are they taken care of? Are their needs met? Do they feel supported? Do they feel empowered? Do they feel like they're making a difference in the world? Which is why a lot of educators get into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then our parents. Do our parents love our school? Are our parents thrilled that are they proud? Do they brag? Do they spread the word? Do they say, do they puff their chest out and say, my kid goes to Stream Academy? What's Stream Academy? Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, and I think the fact that I can answer yes in general terms to those three questions just makes my heart soar, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
doing something right. We're doing this, because I could honestly give testimony that, that's a yes to those three things. And that's how I know we're doing the right thing is, kids and our staff and our parents love our school. Nobody in 7 years, nobody has ever left Stream Academy to teach at another school.
Mm-hmm.
People have retired, and COVID really impacted people in some deep ways that we're just starting to understand. I've had some people resign and leave the profession and just say, for me, it was Stream Academy or nothing, and nothing else. And I've
Mm-hmm.
reached the point where I need to do something different. And so
Right.
that's why I'm leaving. If I was to stay in education, it would only be this. But now
Mm-hmm.
we're still part of the public education structure, right? So,
Right.
yeah, people don't leave if they love your school.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say that I also vouch on all three, that as far as middle schoolers can love a school, my children love it. My elementary age students cannot wait to join Stream. And
Love that.
as a parent, I love it. And now as a staff member, like I'm just like, this is crazy. This is
Thanks.
so crazy cool. And of course,
Mhm.
I would say the coworkers just amazing. I love it. So thank you for sharing that. It's been a very unique experience for me to be a part of this. And I really thought that when I first started following you a couple of years ago and I started learning more about Stream, I was like, wow, that's too good to be true. Like, and for my kids to be able to be part of the lottery, I just thought this is never going to happen. So it has been a dream come true for our family. It's been a game changer for my kids. And I'm a little bit afraid to send my eighth grader on to high school, but I feel like what you said, when
Yeah.
you make that foundation so strong, they will succeed. And so that's what gets me, that's what keeps me calm. What is your hope for your students' futures?
Oh, that's a great question. That they're good humans and they're good citizens. That they find their path and they find their happiness.
Mm,
Um, very specifically and selfishly, I guess I would really love STREAM to have some small impact on changing the balance of women in the STEM fields. And
Mm-hmm.
that's super hyper specific. Like really, I just want kids to be happy and be successful and be good humans and good citizens, and contribute in whatever ways that they find find their own niche. Um, I'd love to see lots of our kids going into STEM related fields. There's a big imbalance in women in STEM fields that
Mm-hmm.
is really underrepresented,
Right.
and you see that in our program, right? One of the things that we're constantly fighting, sort of working hard to balance is the gender ratio.
Right.
So if I just let it be and didn't address it at all, we'd be 70% boys, 30%
Mm.
girls. That's just the way that the numbers fall. But we work really hard to gender balance um, our cohorts. And actually, right now, our 7th grade class has more girls than boys. It's the only class I've ever had, and it makes me really happy because I would like that to be balanced 50-50. So yeah, weird little kind of small
Mm-hmm.
specific targeted thing would be that our girls all go on to change the ratio of women in STEM fields. And um,
Yeah.
but really, I want our kids to be happy and be successful, and just go out and change the world. That's all I ask.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a good job. I mean, the way that you honor every student and you don't minimalize the issues that they're facing, that you support parents, is pretty amazing. So, I think that hope is going to turn into something real for sure. So we're getting closer to the end of the podcast, but I want to ask you something, and because I feel like if there's a leader, or maybe they're in administration, maybe they're a leader in their school as a teacher, what is one step that leaders can implement
Hmm.
to foster that culture of growth in their respective school communities? Maybe just one, something that seems simple to you, but maybe it would just have such
Yeah.
an awesome impact or get them into it.
Well, it's something I share. I think my most of my staff is pretty familiar with this term because I'll throw it around, and since the beginning of the school, and it's flexibility on the other side of structure, right?
Mm, mm,
So there's a quote somewhere, and I can't attribute it right now. There's a quote I read somewhere about how you know flexibility without structure isn't worth a fig, is what the quote was. I don't know. Worth a fig is a weird term, but that's
yeah.
how it was put. So like this is hard. I don't want to undersell what we did is hard. What we do is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Project-based learning is way harder than following the curriculum and following the scope and sequence laid out by the district. Um, Integrating STEM across a curriculum is hard. Ask a English teacher
Right.
um, how they do that, and the conversations they have with me about that. Outdoor experiential ed is hard, right? Schools
Mm-hmm.
don't get kids outside, right? There's lots of
Right.
reasons for that. We live in Alaska. You think folks who are outside Alaska, you think all our kids must go outside, right? No, Anchorage kids are city kids. You
Mm-hmm.
can't tell the difference between them and kids in LA in a lot of ways. And we're always
Mm-hmm.
shocked at Stream, when we talk to kids and they're like, they've never been out of the city. We go to Arctic
Mm.
Valley right outside our city, and we do this. Melody went, and her husband went this year. It was
I
awesome.
barely survived
Yeah.
it.
We do this hike. I hike to the top of a mountain with kids
Yeah.
and, take
I went
pictures up there.
halfway. Right.
Yeah. So we do this every year. And every year I ask kids, and we have a number of kids who are like, I've never done anything like this. I've never been, outside of the city and on the mountain or anything. And so everything we do is hard. I don't want to undersell that and make it sound easy. And so to get back to my one thing is flexibility on the other side of structure. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is you have to have structure in place to do hard things and to do great things. And yet you have to give people flexibility and autonomy. You can't micromanage them. So our
Mhm.
charter, our mission, vision, and then the structures I provide, the parameters I provide, staff kind of guide everything that we do. And then I step back and leave them alone and let them work within those structures. And I don't look over their shoulders, and I don't micromanage them. And I give them a lot of flexibility and autonomy. I've never told in 7 years a staff member or one of our grade level teams what projects to do, or said, no, wait, on that project, you have to find a way to integrate language arts in there somehow. I've never done that. Right. So we give good structures and supports and professional development, and then you let people cook, man. Let teachers cook. They're
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Teachers are awesome, right? Like
Yeah.
teachers don't get enough credit. And then when we do talk about teachers, like there's some new national narrative like bashing on teachers, like,
Mm.
dude, have you been in a classroom and watched a teacher teach? Holy cow, man. Teachers are amazing. What they do is amazing. And so
Right.
give the parameters and the structures and let teachers cook. Let them do awesome things with kids. Teachers want to do awesome things with kids. Like that's why we got into this. Like I want to do really cool stuff and teach kids in these really cool ways. So flexibility on the other side of structure. That's my thing.
Yeah, I love it. And I can attest to the not being micromanaged. So I love it. I mean, I would thrive. It would be a
Mm-hmm.
dream. If I go back full-time teaching, like you said earlier, I
Yeah.
only want to be at stream. I've never
Yeah.
experienced anything like it. I
Thank
don't,
you.
and also even going up that mountain in the fall, that like that put a fire under my butt to like get healthier because I'm like, I want to do this stuff with my kids. And I had never done it. My husband had done this kind of stuff with my kids, but even my eighth grader, it helped her to develop a love for
Yeah.
nature even more than she had known. So as a parent, I am in awe of everything that you
Mm-hmm.
guys are doing. And we are getting close to our time. I want to respect everybody's time, but you are full of wisdom, Adam.
I
So
also
I
talk
want
too much. I'm
no, no,
sorry.
no,
I do. I'm
no.
long-winded. I apologize to the audience that heard my 10-minute answers to the short questions.
Oh no, 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 no. It's been
Mm.
wonderful. It's been great and it makes my job a lot easier. So I would rather you talk. But before we leave today, I asked this question because I think that even though we're talking about fostering a culture of growth and it's a wonderful topic, there are still things going on in our world right now that affect us as human beings. We are whole people. And if you follow Adam on Twitter, you're going to see that he's an educator who cares deeply about politics and how things are affecting our world, our culture, our students, our lives. So Adam, I'm going to ask you, what is one piece of wisdom you'd like to share with educators or just anybody who's listening?
Wow. One piece of wisdom I would share
Or
just
three if you need to.
in general with educators. And this matters. This matters. This is worth fighting for. Public education is the bedrock of our nation. It's the bedrock of our civilization. Without it, the inequity gap just continues to broaden exponentially. Um, Public education is good. Don't believe the narratives that are created for whatever reasons. Can it get better? Yeah, like I said, NCLB had some pieces to it that had value, right? Like we always want to improve our system. I always want to make this thing we do better constantly. Like that idea of continuous improvement, right? We're never there. You're never there. You're always getting better. But public education is amazing. What we do with what we've got, what teachers do with the hands they're dealt, and whoever walks in their door every day is a miracle. It's
Mhm.
amazing. It's people will build rafts from styrofoam and scrap wood and hang on to them for weeks crossing open water to get here for that. And you ask them when they get asylum, like why? Because I want my kids to have a better future. um, this matters. This is worth fighting for. This is worth digging in and saying, public education is one of the most powerful, beautiful, and fundamental things in America. And so I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm probably, I've been in this profession for 22 years, 23 years this year. And
Wow.
there'll come a point where I'm going to do something different. And whatever that something different is, it's going to involve fighting for public education. It'll involve taking the gloves off because I don't have the constraints of having to be really careful about what I say sometimes, because I'm still a public education employee. So, maybe it's at the legislative level, maybe it's something else, but this is worth fighting for, man. Public education is amazing. And if you want it to be better, by all means, dig in and let's do the work and make it better, right? Go
Right.
sub in a classroom for a day and then come back and tell me if you have the same opinions that you had. Um, that's it. That's my wisdom. Long-winded as usual. Sorry, Melody, but
No, don't be sorry. I
that's
love
it.
it.
This is
I
worth
love it.
fighting for. This is a
Totally.
beautiful thing.
It is. And I hope that you do someday. You have my vote. So because you are making changes. I really appreciate that you shared everything you did today. If you are listening, I hope that whether it's live or whether it's the replay, I hope you'll join our Spaces EDU community and we can keep the conversation going. It's at facebook.com/group/Spaces EDU. But Adam, it has been such a wonderful time talking with you. In our show notes, I will put all the ways that you can follow Adam on social media or be involved. Is there anything that you want to is there anything you want to share right now that for the audience to know about Stream before we say goodbye? Is the is
Oh,
the is that what is it? The fundraiser still going on? The
oh
baskets?
yeah, that's a great thing to. Thanks for reminding me to plug that. We do. So we have a 501c3, a nonprofit arm, operates independent of me, which is a good thing. Just to support the school. And our nonprofit is called Stream Anchorage. If you just look for Stream Anchorage, or we can share the links, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
every year we do this annual auction where all of our students in their advisories put together a basket with a theme, like a camping basket and a movie night basket, a road trip basket. And they donate all this stuff to go in the baskets. And then we auction those off, and we auction off a bunch of other really cool donations and things. And the nonprofit supports our staff by giving micro grants to teachers for projects they want to do. And again, that's independent of me. So teachers apply to the nonprofit and they get these micro grants. It's really cool. So yeah, check out our online auction. It's at the site we use is Better World, and I don't have.
I'll share links. I will
Thank
share
you. Yeah,
links.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. It's a good plug. And just follow us, support us. Follow Stream on Twitter. It's ANC_stream_AK. Follow us on Twitter and just support public charters, support public education. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Stream will be fine. Support public education.
Awesome. All right. And I will put all of those things in our show notes. Thank you again, Adam. Don't drop off. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. We'll see you again next week. I'm going to have Dr. Randall Sampson join us, but it's been a great morning. Actually, it's morning for us in Alaska, but it's afternoon for all of you on the East Coast. So thanks so much for listening in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.